gentlemen, thank you very much for being here with us. First of all, thank you very much to our physical attendees. Post-pandemic, I think we are able to come back to the original kind of streamline of the society, bringing us forward, hopefully. It's a great pleasure to engage you all today, both our physical attendees and our online attendees that have exceeded right now more than 200 people. Thank you very much for waiting in queue, and thank you very much for the physical attendees. I am Vasilia Orfanou, Gaia-X CMO. We have a serious roster of speakers today. Enjoy. Thank you very much.
Ja, moin, bienvenue, herzlich willkommen, and welcome from my side as well. And there are a lot of people with excellent bon mots, so I shamelessly use one, a quote from my favorite movies, to welcome the online attendees. So we are glad to see so many of you lovely people here tonight, and we would especially like to welcome all the online attendees as well, who have chosen to join us here tonight at the Chambre de Commerce at this time. We do sincerely hope you all enjoy the show. So maybe some of you remember that one from the movie.
And we are not the show. You and I are not the show tonight.
No, we're not the show. No dog and pony show tonight.
I know, we're not running the show. So thank you very much again. We have a very small change. Initially, we would have Hubert Tardieu right now, but our program is changing with Gaia-X from a national perspective with Maria Grotz, Director General for Industry, Technology, and Research at Ministry of Economy, and he's going to present first, and then it's going to be on our independent board member from Gaia-X perspective, Hubert Tardieu. This would be our only change for the day, yes?
Perfect.
Okay.
So I haven't introduced myself, I just noticed. You haven't introduced me neither.
Ralph.
So I'm Ralph.
This is Ralph.
I'm the national coordinator for Gaia-X over here in Luxembourg, working at Lux Innovation. So, before we dive into the topic, it's another one of my favorite quotes. Someday, on the corporate balance sheet, there will be an entry which reads information. For in most cases, the information is more valuable than the hardware which processes it. Mm-hmm. You probably don't know who this quote is by?
Nope.
No. So, this quote was by Grace Hopper. Now, if you don't know her, Google it. The internet is your friend. It's one of the most amazing and inspiring persons in IT. And with that, I would like to hand over to Sasha Bailey, another great woman working on pushing innovation in Luxembourg, and who, by coincidence, happens to be the CEO of the company I work for Lux Innovation. So, Sasha, floor is yours.
Thank you, Ralph, for those kind words, and thank you, Vasilia. So I'm really, really pleased, ladies and gentlemen. Oops, I need to bring it down a bit because of my size. It's a real pleasure to welcome you here in Luxembourg, physically and digitally, for this first, actually, conference organized by the Luxembourg Gaia-X Regional Hub, following its launch exactly a year ago in this same location. The title of this event, the EU's most important aspiration in a generation, is truly fitting. It's absolutely important that we are aware of how much challenge this is and how important it is for the European Union. So why is this ambition to build a federated, secure European cloud of such importance to the EU? It's important so that we can continue to thrive in a Europe where freedom and privacy are guaranteed. The Russian attack on Ukraine has confronted us directly with the true meaning of strategic autonomy. Our dependence on Russian gas has widespread implications and has curtailed Europe's capacity to act as categorically as it should be able to. So strategic autonomy, what is that? It's the ability of a state to pursue its interests without being dependent on a foreign state. And Gaia-X is precisely about that. It's about strategic autonomy. It's about European data sovereignty, about ensuring that within our own digital space, we have control over our precious resources, that we have the capacity to decide and act independently of the interests of foreign states, especially those that don't necessarily share our values. So bringing this to a more concrete level of immediate interest to companies, Gaia-X is actually the way to meet the concerns of SMEs that want to maintain control of their data. Yet in order to innovate, to develop new products and business models, they need to move to cloud-based solutions. Yet cloud-based solutions are mostly not European. And in just the first quarter of 2021, the global expenditure for cloud infrastructure services was $53 billion. 61% of this huge market was held by 3 US providers. And this just shows how dependent the EU is on non-European external service providers. Now, this is not to say that we should not continue to resort to services from providers outside the EU that bring many advantages in the global market of which we are a part of. Yet we cannot and we must not place all our data exclusively in the hands of providers outside of the EU whose paths can diverge from ours without us being able to do very much about it. Just a few days ago, I attended an excellent conference on cloud solutions organised by one of the Big Four in Luxembourg. And all the experts agreed on the true benefits of cloud solutions for businesses. Flexibility, access to full and real-time data from which to develop innovative solutions, speed, cost. Yet the challenge of data sovereignty, the question of confidence in who can get access to data, when, and from where, came up as a huge hurdle. And that's one that holds back many companies, especially those dealing with sensitive data. So the Gaia-X initiative was set up to address exactly those challenges. The ambition is to involve all European stakeholders concerned in gathering and developing the common requirements for a federated, secure, and sovereign European data infrastructure. Centralized and decentralized infrastructures need to be connected in order to become one homogeneous, user-friendly system where data can be accessed and shared securely and confidently. Gaia-X is not only about building and developing the technology needed for building a European cloud, it is about creating a common understanding, shared standards, and governance structure needed to incite a whole digital ecosystem to grow and to flourish. It will also greatly facilitate innovation in fields such as data security, compliance, governance, and business models. So Lux Innovation, here in Luxembourg, has been entrusted with running Luxembourg's regional Gaia-X hub. It was logical and natural for Luxembourg's innovation agency to take on this role, since it's in line with our mission to support companies in their uptake of digital technologies and in developing digital solutions. A constantly increasing number of innovation projects that we support are, in fact, data-related. So as a facilitator and as a driver of innovation within an economy that aims to become more sustainable and data-driven, we gear our efforts towards the development of a strong European data ecosystem, with Gaia-X as the key driver towards European data sovereignty and strategic autonomy. So we're very delighted to see the response from the Luxembourg community, which already counts 8 direct and 26 indirect Gaia-X members. The high attendance today, both here in the Chamber of Commerce premises as well as online, is also an increasing sign of interest, a very positive sign of increasing interest in Gaia-X, and above all of the understanding of its purpose. So our Gaia-X regional hub was launched a year ago, and the very first projects are already taking shape. At this early phase, the initiative is a bit like a construction site, which is in full swing, with a lot of activities going on left, right, and centre in different places, but with very little visibility of how this all actually comes together. And so this is why our programme today aims to provide you with a full overview of where the initiative stands today and where it actually aims to go. We are going to be providing concrete examples and to give you insights on the ongoing projects that are focusing on very different verticals. And we're going to hear about how Gaia-X fits in with other European initiatives, as well as with our national policies. And we shall get information about the current status of the federations and the federated services to be developed by Gaia-X in order to make it simple for data owners to exchange and to transfer data. So I hope that today's discussion will inspire you further to become a part of this Gaia-X initiative and yourselves contribute to the definition of data infrastructure requirements. For cloud service providers, network providers, and data infrastructure entities, this is a way to ensure that your services and infrastructures will be interconnected and interoperable with future European data infrastructure. So I would like to encourage all companies, research organizations, and public bodies to consider joining the thematic Gaia-X working groups in order to identify the use cases and align on common standards and possibly even build consortia that can benefit from future opportunities to respond to national and European calls for projects. This is a bottom-up approach, and it can only work if you bring in your expertise, your experience, and your ideas. We rely on you. So thank you very much for your engagement. You are not only seizing the opportunity for your business and for research, you are contributing to Europe's data sovereignty and to Europe's strategic autonomy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sasha. I would like to bring to our next presentation slot Mr. Groth, that he's replacing, as we mentioned in this slot, Hubert Dieu, Director General for Industry, Technology and Research at the Ministry of Economy. If we can have him already on the screen, please.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. I mean, it's really a pleasure to have the opportunity to see people, meet with people, and also discuss the different topics with people. That has been a long time not possible, and I'm really happy that we're able today to discuss about the achievements of Gaia-X and to discuss where we stand today, and hopefully to motivate some additional actors in order to participate in this initiative. So my role today is to give you an update on the strategy of the ministry, and in order to show you that Gaia-X is not a standalone initiative, but that it makes part, that is an integral part of a whole strategy, and we put a lot of effort, and there is a lot of commitment from the government in order to support all the actors who are active in that field. So I hope I will succeed in that task to convince you about the commitment of the government in this respect. I always start with this slide. I know this is known to everybody, but still it's the basis of what we're talking here. Data is the oil of today. We all agree on that. I think there is no doubt about that. And the growth of the amount of data is incredible. And as you can see on this slide, we're talking about an amount of data of 175 zetaflops. So what does it really mean? To illustrate, what are 175 petaflops? Just to give you the example, if you would download these petaflops on a current, with a current internet connection, it would take you 1.8 billion years to download 175 petaflops. So this is just to illustrate what this number means, and it also illustrates quite well what the opportunities are in that respect. But what do we do with this data today? There is no doubt that there is a lot of economic opportunities on this data. However, we are not really using these economic opportunities. And this you can see also on the slide. There are only 3% of all data which are currently tagged and are used or really used in applications. And from this 3%, only 1/6, so 0.5%, is today used for analysis. So it's only a tiny amount of the tsunami of data which we are really using. And only 90% of the world's data was created over the last 2 years, but only 2% of the 90% were really saved and retained. So we see that there is a big opportunity. Data is the new oil. No one doubts that there are economic opportunities, but unfortunately today we are not yet ready to really use the full potential, at least, of the data economy. So how is Luxembourg preparing to that? We were one of the first countries who was positioning it as in the data economy, and I think the starting point for Luxembourg is quite remarkable. We invested a lot, thanks to huge investments over the last years in connectivity, in data centers, in the other infrastructures, but also in competencies at the university and in the companies. We are today quite well positioned in the data economy, and this is also shown by the different indexes. Here I just reproduced the index from the Digital Economy and Society Index, which is probably the most known index here in Europe. And it shows very clearly that Luxembourg is above the average of when it comes to digital transformation compared to the European countries. And we are especially doing well when it comes to connectivity, and already mentioned the different investments we did. But we are also very well placed when it really comes to human capital. And I think that is a very important factor. So, in fact, it shows that Luxembourg is able to attract talent in the IT sector to Luxembourg. And I think this is a prerequisite if we want really to play an important role in that area. We came up in 2019 with what I would call a very clear strategy based on 3 pillars in order to position Luxembourg in the data economy. Just to mention the 3 pillars very quickly, very clear that we have to continue to invest in infrastructures, and by infrastructures I mean of course continued investments in data centers, in HPC, but also in connectivity, 5G, and in other new technologies like edge computing, or also the cloud, the National Cloud Initiative, which has also been mentioned already by Sasha in its introductory speech. So very important that we continue on that route to invest in infrastructure. But it's not only about infrastructure, it's also about know-how. So how can we build the right know-how? How can we help the companies to build the know-how inside their entities? And very important in that respect is also the project of building a digital innovation hub. And this is also an entity or an entity which is located inside Lux Innovation. So the Lux Innovation has also been given the mission in order to host the digital innovation hub, which somehow is a one-stop shop for all the companies, for all questions related to the digital transformation. And then, of course, we also have to work on the 3rd pillar, which is really ensuring a regulatory environment. We need to make sure that we are in the forefront of the regulatory developments. And here I especially would like to mention the secondary use of data. We need to make sure that in that respect we have a regulatory framework which also allows the secondary use of data. And then last point is more on the investment framework. There also, today more traditional investments instruments are focusing on bricks and mortar, and here we're definitely in the phase where we need to invest in intangible assets, and the traditional assets are not really very well fit to invest in intangible assets, that we really have to rethink and to reshape our instruments. So that is the last important item, which is also part of our strategy released in 2019. This philosophy of the strategy is also reflected in the new document, the roadmap for a competitive and sustainable economy. Again, it is focused on different areas with, in general, a dual focus on digital transformation and also a focus on more sustainability. What we try to achieve by this roadmap is really to give an answer on how Luxembourg can use digital technologies and also data in order to accelerate the path to a more sustainable and more resilient economy. So again, here in this roadmap for the future, data is key, and the use of data will contribute to a more sustainable economy. At least this is what the Luxembourg economy and Luxembourg Ministry of Economy stands for. This roadmap also foresees a certain number of very concrete projects which we are today implementing. Some we are already quite far in the implementation phase, and some of these projects we will start, or we are on the starting blocks in order to launch them. Just to mention a few of them, and all of them just are building an ecosystem. So it is not the one single project which makes a difference, but it's really considering all the projects together, integrating these projects, which really help to foster and to develop the Luxembourg ecosystem. Of course, I need to mention the HPC. This is in all my presentation as a president of this company. I definitely have to do some promotion for the HPC, but it is a very important project in that respect. The Luxembourg government spent more than 40 million investment in this in order to build the infrastructure, but also to build the competencies. What we see today is that a lot of companies are in need of computing power, but it's not very easy, especially for the SMEs, how to use really such a big machine. So the concept, the business model which we developed is really to build the infrastructure, but on the other hand also to build a team which could accompany the companies in order to really use that machine. And you see that we have developed a quite ambitious projects by being the most greenest HPC in Europe, and in terms of capacities being the 12th, ranked 12th in the benchmark, in 10th, not 12th, in Europe. So for Luxembourg, this is a very ambitious project. Complementary to that, of course, we are participating in the Gaia-X initiative, and Luxembourg also fully committed to the objective and of the Gaia-X in order to create data spaces in different areas, making databases communicate together, but at the end also having the objective to make the data spaces communicate together. And also the approach which has been put in the forefront of Gaia-X is very close and fits very well with the Luxembourg approach. So advancing by use cases is something which is also in our DNA or in our business mentality. This is very often a very pragmatic way to go forward, but also a very oriented possibility to advance in order to achieve the objectives. It has already also been said that we are investing in the National Data Exchange Platform here. Also, the most important is really to build competencies. So it's at least at this point of time, it's less the technology platform which is important, but it's really the services around that platform which will help all the actors, be it on the public or on the private side, to make use of the data. So it's very important that we provide services when it comes to making the data available, making the data accessible, making the data interoperable, making them compliant to with the regulation. So all these services will be set up in that platform and will be available for the different kinds of customers, be it entrepreneurs, be it academia, but be it also the government or the ministries, because I think I can definitely ensure you that there's also a need on the ministry side to use this kind of services. And of course, we're also participating in the IPSAI-SIS, so on building a hyperscaler cloud infrastructure. Luxembourg is there focusing more on the cybersecurity side, and our idea would also there to be to build a data space in the cybersecurity field, so that we are able to share all the data relative to cyber attacks, and that we are better able to respond to these attacks. All in all, and there are several other, I could mention also the cloud initiatives, there are several other initiatives. What I wanted to say is that we're really committed to that. We have a clear strategy, we have clear projects identified, and we have a clear budget put on that. For just the 4 projects which I mentioned now, the Luxembourg government has or is investing more than 120 million. And these are amounts which you can find in the budget, so very clear also financial commitments which have been taken in order to implement what we have written in the strategy. Coming to Gaia-X, of course, Gaia-X, as I mentioned before, is a very important element of this strategy. It really allows us to build the data spaces which we need, and here also a very important role has been given to Lux Innovation, which here again is a kind of one-stop shop for all the questions relative to Gaia-X, but also has some responsibilities to build partnerships and collaboration together with public and private entities in that respect. It has been said that already 8 entities are direct members of the ASBL and 26 indirect members. It has also been mentioned that we are very active already today in the different working groups on Gaia-X. The LEH, which is the Luxembourg Institute of Health, is, for example, leading the health working group. We also are a co-leader of the space working group. You know that space is also a thematic here in Luxembourg, which is very close to our heart. And then we are contributing to other working groups, of course, finance, but also mobility, public sector, smart cities, education, skills, agriculture, and circular economy. So we are very, very active in that respect still. I mean, we are still at the beginning of a development. The last year, I was mainly focusing on encouraging the companies to participate in this workshop, encouraging companies to collaborate together with research institutions or the public sector. Now the next step would really be to come up with concrete projects and participate really very actively in that respect on the national level, but then also, of course, on the European level, because at the end, what we seek here is really to integrate our companies in European partnerships, because it's really these partnerships which also helps to build the knowledge and the vision for the future development of our companies. Just to confirm again, the government has foreseen a budget over the next 4 years of 25 million. So this is today already in the budget. We are looking for collaborative projects at the national or at the European level. It would also be possible on our side to fund feasibility studies. So for those who would not like to engage immediately in concrete projects and just make sure that they have the right business model, it would also be possible to co-fund on our side these feasibility studies. And we are also thinking about launching a Gaia-X call, a national call, but this is still to be discussed also with the different stakeholders. That could also be an option if it seems that would add value to the initiatives. Of course, we have to stick to state aid rules, so we are always bound to state aid rules. So the intervention rate would be around, I would suppose, between 40 and 50% co-funding, depending, of course, on the complexity of the projects. And for SMEs, we could even have a top-up of 10 to 20%. So we are in co-funding rates which are, for most of the companies, above 50%, which I think should be quite attractive. So at least I hope so. So this also would also like to conclude, as Sasha already said before, please contact the Gaia-X hub at Lux Innovation. Take the best use of these opportunities, which will be or which are already there today in the data economy. Take good use of the money which we would like to spend on the ministry side, and I think definitely this initiative on Gaia-X will definitely contribute to help the data economy flourish in Luxembourg, but also in Europe. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mario, for your clear words on how Gaia-X perceived in the public eye. And there's one thing I would like to point out over here, because that's not everybody actually realizes it. But if you do the math and you take 25 million of budget for the next 4 years, so you have to take into consideration that we're a country with 630,000 people, roughly. So where's Andreas? If you scale that to Germany with 83 million, let me do the math, you need to take it times 130. Yeah? So that's a serious budget, and that's a serious commitment for such a state over here. And well, we definitely will find some ways to spend it senseful in Gaia-X projects. So on to the next topic. We have Andreas Weiss over here from ECHO, who found his way from Germany, and he will talk about the federation services, which are the core part. So if you see that famous X somewhere popping up, you'll know who the man is to talk about it. Andreas, take it away.
Thank you very much. Warm welcome to all the humans here with us. I really appreciate, and of course to our online audience remotely. And when we talk about Gaia-X, I think one of the key objectives was to talk about self-determination. And this is also a topic, and my headline is Self-Determination by Federation, which is one of these pillars. We just heard the strategic point of view by Sasha, and also the challenges by Mario and Sasha, you both. And I think it's now the time to bring Gaia-X into operation. So this is something where we need to show it as a tangible, operatable thing, and the federation services are one of these elements. And I think federation is really a good term. We know it all within the European Union. We are all federated states. It is a very huge advantage, sometimes challenging. Just in Germany, we have 18 data privacy authorities, but we need to deal with this. But I think this approach to provide a reasonable level of self-determination is very important. And I hope this will work now. Yeah. And now, just to repeat the Gaia-X value proposition, one of the key objectives was to serve for data sovereignty. So this is a first key thing in conjunction with data availability. So I also listen always about these requests about digital sovereignty and so on and so forth. I think it is worth to start now with data sovereignty and to bring the core how to deal with data-driven business models. And therefore, Gaia-X promotes a technical architecture for database services and business models, and this in highly complex environments. And this is the real challenge behind it. It is quite simple to have 5 actors who are working closely together and exchange data. But when we are talking about thousands of actors, it's getting complex. And therefore, we have a set of functional and interoperable components described for example, the federation services. But of course, we need also some governance, so the regulatory framework, which has also to be turned into technical and automated means. And then, therefore, we need a so-called trust framework to keep the federations together in a trustworthy manner. And this is the challenge, finally. We have a lot of connections. We have a lot of domains who are working together. We have the cloud-centric model, but we also have the edge. And this has to be orchestrated, cross over the domains, cross over the cloud and edge environments, shift the workloads from A to B to C, get the data wherever they occur, and this is typically in the edge. And therefore, we need this cloud edge continuum orchestration, which is also clearly addressed by the IPSAI CRS to get this on the physical level. And therefore, we have a multitude of federations, and we want to avoid to get again the silos here. So they need to work with common standards, with a common conceptual approach. Each of them are self-determined. They can do whatever they want internally, but if they want to interlink with others, if they want to work closely with data spaces and so on and so forth, they should follow the same rules, the same standards, and let's go from there. And there's also the relation to the technical concept, which is exposed by Pierre Gonlet, the CTO of the Gaia-X Association. And this is something where we have an ongoing alignment between the technical and conceptual approach of Gaia-X and how it turns into the operational model by federation. So what we did? Nothing. Yeah. So again, just to recap, what is a federation from our point of view? It's a joint group of stakeholders who cooperate on business objectives. So this is really the use case. So we need to understand where they want to go and what is their focus, because we cannot drive it from a technical point of view. We need to listen carefully what they are saying, what are their challenges, and how can we transform it into a support by Gaia-X. And further on, we at least assume that participants agree on joint rules, objectives, and technology. And really, technology is clearly the core to keep this promise to be interoperable. And federators, this is then the functional entity who is going to operationalize a federation. So this can be a cloud provider, this can be a participant in the federation, but at least you need some technical services to bring all these actors together and to provide them with appropriate services to organize themselves and to organize with the ecosystems. And then, last but not least, we are promoting now a set of core services, so-called GXFS, Gaia-X Federation Services. And we are really saying this is a reference implementation. No one is mandated to take them as they are. It is just to showcase how it can work. If anyone is capable to do it with his own technology stack, good to go. We just want, on the Gaia-X side, just want to clarify what is needed in terms of standards and technology to be interoperable, to be portable, to work jointly. But this is still, and I think this must be said, an open ecosystem in this sense. And therefore we promoted our toolbox, the Gaia-X Federation Services. And just to say, GXFS is a minimum set of services necessary to operate Gaia-X federations. And we are promoting a set of technical specifications. They are all open, and we are also offering open source code. So this is, I think, very transparent, and anyone can take it and reuse it and build something on top of it, because the use cases are, of course, intellectual property in most cases. This is also supported mainly by the Gaia-X Association. We have these repositories. We have all the developers in the back end who are contributing into this area. And in the near future, we will turn it into an Open Eclipse Foundation project so that the complete community can contribute on the evolution of Gaia-X Federation services. But I also need to outline what is Gaia-X not. It is not a product. So it is not something, here, take it, and then everything is fine. So you have to work closely with us or with the teams who are working on these deliverables. And then you have to link the conceptual approach or the components according to the conceptual approach. And from time to time, you will get then more major components. Beside this, it is also not a set of services which are operated or managed by the Gaia-X Association. So the Gaia-X Association is here to promote the standards and to offer these open source packages, but you have to operate them yourself as a federation. And just to recap, so we have these open specifications. Unfortunately, these are more than 1,000 pages. So if you want to have a shorter look at it, we have a 10 pages white paper on this. It is open standard, so don't reinvent the wheel. And we are always referring to existing standards. It is not on us to build new standards. It's just to orchestrate and to bring existing standards according to the high-level objectives of Gaia-X together. And as I said, it's a reference implementation. Now, what does it mean exactly? And Mario showed this picture with 4 wings. We had this identity and trust part. So I think it's quite obvious. We need a clear understanding who are our counterparts in the federation. And we need something beyond Google and Facebook accounts. So we need clear identities with a clear description, with a clear reference, who you are, or where is your headquarters, and so on and so forth. And this is something which is completely supported by the so-called sovereign, self-sovereign identity concept. And this is something where we built now our first reference implementation with all the things like wallets and so on. Probably you've heard about this. But this is really a matter of sovereignty as well. Together with accordingly or appropriate trust mechanism, then we need a kind of catalog for all the participants in the federation, but moreover for all the services which are offered within the federation. And I'm not just talking about these commodity compute services like infrastructure as a service or something like this. When it turns into data services, it is really a level of complexity. And therefore, and of course, if you look at your own services you're consuming already today, it is always an assembly of a set of sub-services. And if you want to make an appropriate compliance assessment or GDPR assessment, you need to understand all the services which are linked within your end-to-end service. And therefore, we need the level of transparency and the technology behind this catalog, and also the self-descriptions is accordingly that you can reassemble them and you can bring them together. And this is really a huge advantage. And then we talk about sovereign data exchange. So this is the key objective again, one of the key objectives of Gaia-X. And therefore, we have to balance it between organizational enforcement and technical enforcement. And just having a contract which clearly says, you can get my data for the next 4 weeks to support your supply chain, is already a huge advantage, because right now the people are releasing their data and they don't know what happens with the data and they are scared about it. The initial driver of Gaia-X was the platform industry 4.0, where they said, we have all the data, we have all our digital twins, we have our asset administration shell, but I'm really scared to share the data with anyone I'm not knowing, and I'm not clarifying what you're allowed to do with it and what not. And this is not just relevant for the personal data, it's also for machine data, because this is intellectual property by each of the factories, by each of the producers, and so on. So we need to take this seriously. And this is then related with all the compliance aspects in the cloud space. Now, there is don't read it now, just saying, now we are starting to fill these wings with real functional services. And this has already started. People are working on the code level. We got 15 million euro by the German ministry to drive this forward, to get this open source done within this year. So within this year, Gaia-X will turn into a full operational mode with the first set of federation services. And we are going to advance them further on. We used all these standards just to outline, yes, we are referring to standards mainly out of W3C. This is really important to get this acceptance, to get the buy-in by the developer community, and to be advanced at this level. So our schedules of the German implementation, we release our specifications in May 2021. So there was sufficient time to have a look at it. We made this EU-wide tender, so it's not just for German companies. We have EU companies in the European area which are serving for the development, and we started the assignment of the code development already last year, and now they are working diligent on this code level. And we asked them to be ready by end of Q2. Some of them are earlier, some of them will be most likely delayed, as always, but this is the time frame where we are targeting now. So it's not very, in the next 3 to 4 months, you will have the services and you can play with them. And then we will showcase how it works. And then we start a second specification round to make the final adjustments with all the involvement of the Gaia-X Association. And then we are going to hand over everything into the Eclipse Foundation. And what is really important, the French project has already kicked off now. So also the French government supported the development of the federation services. And they are directly aligned with all the activities in the Gaia-X Association, on the Policies Rules Committee, on the Data Space Committee, on the Technical Committee. And we are in an ongoing alignment that things are working together, that we don't introduce some redundancy. And no, and if you want to learn more about this GXFS project, just visit gxfs.eu. We have a lot of explainer videos, blog series. We're working very closely with Vasilia and her team to promote everything through all the channels, to showcase what's going on and how to be engaged, for example, with our recent hackathon, which has been done last Monday and Tuesday with around 400 participants, which is already quite impressive, because we need to engage the developer community as well, because we can talk a lot about strategy. If we don't bring them on board, nothing will happen at all. So this is really important. Yeah, and there are further contacts, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andreas. As Andreas mentioned, we are taking, let's say, the responsibility to bring more strategy, but equally the technical implementation, and bring the developers to work with us on a daily basis. So there are a series of tech dives, series of hackathons that we will be implementing throughout the year, but a number of data space events specifically to the different sectors. So I would also like to thank Andreas and his team for the support and trust and confidence to Gaia-X. We have a number of white papers that have been released about the Gaia-XFS project, most recently both the French version and the German version, and I do encourage and engage all our participants, which by this time they have reached 400 attendees, which we are really thankful for your participation today. I would like to see if Pierre Chastanet is here. Thank you. Hi, Pierre. So today with us, we have a very important stakeholder, great speaker, Pierre Chastanet from DG Connect. Specifically, he's going to reflect on the European landscape, on the EU data economy. We've recently seen the release of the Data Act strategy and the European Digital Strategy. Pierre leads the cloud and software head of unit of DG Connect of the European Commission. Thank you very much, Pierre, for being here with us once again. It's always a pleasure.
Many thanks, and thank you very much for allowing me to participate remotely. Really sorry I can't be with you today. We still have some restriction on traveling, but we hope this will be alleviated quite soon. I'm trying to share my presentation, but I see this is disabled right now. If the technical team can allow me to share my screen. Yes, thank you. Very good. I hope you can see my slides. They will come up in a minute. Yes, here we go. Okay, very good. So I will try to give you a bit of background on the broader European landscape to facilitate the development of the European data economy. The development of the European data economy has really been at the heart of this commission. Very early at the beginning of this commission, Commissioner Breton really prioritized the development of a European data strategy as a key element to develop the European digital economy, notably to foster the development of artificial intelligence. That was a key part of the European strategy. If we want to be able to master AI in Europe, we must have control of two key things. One, we must master the data. We must have European data fueling machine learning to be able to have artificial intelligence that is going to respect European fundamental values, that will ensure that we know how decisions are taken, that certain criteria will be respected. And in order to operate this AI, we also must have the proper data processing infrastructure and services in place to host data and also to operate artificial intelligence. And what I've just described here really constitute the key pillars of the European data strategy. The data strategy that was published at the beginning of 2020 proposes a number of governance framework for data access, data use, data reuse across the European economy. So basically, what are the rules that will facilitate different organizations to exchange, share data in a way that is fair and benefit everybody? Then we have all the investment that are needed to build up data infrastructure, to develop data services across the EU, notably sector-specific data services. That is very important. The one size fits all. I think we have really come to the end of this, and so there is really a need to develop tailored data services for the different sectors of the European industry. That goes, of course, with the fourth pillar, so developing data infrastructure that will enable to host the development of common European data spaces. So doesn't mean centralized infrastructure. On the contrary, the data strategy takes a very distributed approach to data processing. We want data spaces to actually be an interconnection of different databases that are hosted in the different member states across different organizations, but facilitate the swift and secured and trusted exchange of data across different organizations. And finally, the pillar on competencies, it's something that business association constantly resurface to us, the lack of skills in Europe for people that do have the necessary capacity, knowledge to address these technical challenges. So finding good data scientists on the European market is still something difficult, but there as well, we will undertake the necessary investment to develop those capacities, those competencies in Europe. We really shouldn't shy away in Europe. We probably have the most solid data policy framework in the world, and that started with a previous commission. For instance, with the General Data Protection Regulation, with the free flow of non-personal data regulation. These two pieces of legislation provide a guarantee to all European enterprises that wherever they are operating on the territory of the EU, they are facing the same rules when it comes to data protection, but also are benefiting from the same rules, meaning that they can go and process their data wherever they want on the territory of the EU and benefit from the same guarantees with one single set of obligations. So if you have subsidiaries in different European countries, you just need to be compliant once with a set of rules and then can operate across the EU. With the data strategy, we wanted to complement that initial legislative framework to tackle a number of emerging challenges in the data economy. We wanted to create a proper framework that reassures companies, public organizations on how data can be shared, accessed, reused. And we started with the Data Governance Act, whose negotiations were finalized just at the end of last year. And much more recently, we have proposed the Data Act that was adopted on the 23rd of February. So it's really fresh from the press. And I will come back look a bit more in details on some of the key provision, notably for what pertains to overcoming vendor lock-in that most European enterprises are complaining about at the moment. And secondly, to tackle the risk of unlawful access to data. So the Data Act, beside aspects on data access, data reuse, are addressing those key issues. With the Digital Market Act, the Commission has tried to address the abuse of market power, so notably those gatekeepers that have a dominant position on certain digital markets that will face really stringent criteria to be able to operate and avoid that they abuse from their market position. In order to tackle the fragmentation of European data processing capacity, the Commission in its industrial strategy committed to develop an alliance for industrial data, edge and cloud. Of course, we want to do this in very close cooperation with Gaia-X, and I will come back on cooperation mechanism. But there are certain aspects where the Commission has a natural remit to intervene and cooperate with industry to tackle specific aspect on gaps of capacities, notably for certain sector with high security criteria. Finally, we also want to address governance contractual problem. And let me highlight here the work we're doing on one side with industry with the development of a European cloud rule book, which we intend to publish by the end of the year. So this will be a comprehensive set of rules, a compilation of mostly existing rules that cloud service providers operating in Europe have to be compliant with, but for which we have very little visibility on which market actors are really in compliance with those European rules. So that will be the objective of the rule book. Secondly, we're working with the member states to develop guidance for cloud public procurement. Every public authority at national, regional, local level sometimes has to reinvent the wheel when they want to procure cloud infrastructure or cloud services. It's really a shame that we don't benefit from the scale of Europe to be able to harmonize the way we procure cloud services in Europe, but also make sure that in those cloud public procurement, there are a number of key criteria to respect European legislation. As promised, let me come back to the Data Act. It's really an important piece of legislation that we adopted recently. I won't detail every provision, but just to highlight the fact that one of the key objectives of the Data Act will help to facilitate better access to IoT data and put users more in control of those data that are generated at the edge through various IoT devices. So by putting the user more in control, we mean that users will be able to choose who they are sharing their data with in order to be able to benefit from additional services. And that means that they can't get locked in by the manufacturer of the device. So that will allow them to have more access to their data and also choose who they want to share the data with. Also gives them the possibility to withdraw that access whenever they want. So there is really reversibility in that respect. As I mentioned, we also want to tackle various forms of contractual unfairness in notably business-to-business data sharing, but also in cloud services. The Data Act will allow public sector, in case of emergencies, to request businesses to make certain categories of data available to public authorities for the common good. You can think of the COVID crisis, for instance, as the type of emergency situation where public authorities can benefit from data that are hosted by the private sector. And finally, we want to facilitate switching between cloud services. And that's what I want to describe a bit more in detail in this slide. The Data Act will really help to improve trust that people have in data processing services by tackling this problem of vendor locking, and notably by putting in place a number of minimum requirements for users to be able to switch easily from one data process service provider to another service provider. So the Data Act provides a number of minimum contractual guarantees on the time it takes to switch from one provider to the other, with certain guarantees that you will be able to retrieve both your data, your application, but also the quality of the service into the new environment, and generally improve the level of interoperability that exists among data services, so that among companies, you don't need to redevelop all the time various interfaces to make your software interoperable with the software of your customer or your provider, which is very costly, creates all sorts of cybersecurity issues. So we really want, through the Data Act, to raise the bar in terms of interoperability. In this respect, Gaia-X has a key role to play. In the provision of the Data Act, the Commission says that it will look at available open technical specification and harmonized standard. And in that respect, we will be looking at great interest at the consensus that Gaia-X is trying to foster among different industrial grouping, notably sectoral grouping, to see if industry can agree on certain interoperability standard or open technical specification for different sectors of the economy that will facilitate that interoperability. Let me highlight another form of cooperation that we expect with Gaia-X, and that pertains more to the interaction between the European Alliance for Industrial Data Agent Cloud and the Common European Data Spaces. We see that through the consensus that Gaia-X is trying to develop on common reference architecture, on interoperability standard, that it will really facilitate the development of common European data spaces. And this is very important to us. We really do not want to duplicate the work that is being done under Gaia-X, but on the contrary, leverage that work so that it can fuel various forms of investment that are undertaken at European level. And this is actually the role of the European Alliance to gather that input from European stakeholders and be able to understand the needs for industry in order to guide the Commission for future investment programs. So co-investment is absolutely essential here to develop those cloud and edge federation capacities across Europe, but also to develop sectoral common European data spaces. This is a bit of a more technical view of what I've just described, but for those technical savvy people in the room that explain a bit better how we envisage the different layers of the technical architecture to assemble together. But it also highlights a very important aspect of our strategy, which is the fact that the development of common European data spaces is going to fuel the need of developing European Cloud Federation. Conversely, the integration of various data processing capacities that are spread across Europe, either very centralized like HPC and cloud, or highly distributed like IoT and edge capacities, that the integration and interconnection of all those capacities will facilitate the development of common European data spaces. Very often people have the misperception that when we talk about common European data spaces, it's like some sort of big database that will be sitting in Brussels. That's exactly the contrary. We want data to stay where they are. What we want is to actually interconnect different data sources, and data spaces are actually a virtual layer coming on top of this that will interconnect different databases and make them available so that added value services can be brought on top of it. For instance, be able to do data aggregation, data analytics, or develop sector-specific services for the need of those sectors. A few words about the European Alliance for Industrial Data Agent Cloud. That alliance has been kicked off just at the end of last year. We have currently 46 members that are actively participating in this alliance. A significant portion of them are actually Gaia-X members as well, so that really facilitates the interaction and the possible synergies between the alliance and Gaia-X. We're of course welcoming further members to join the alliance. There is a continuous and open call for participation to join the alliance. Let me mention, however, that there are a number of criteria to be met in order to join the alliance. So if you're interested, please do look carefully at the criteria that are set out in the terms of reference of the alliance. The alliance notably aims at focusing on a number of sectors that do have very high security requirement, which is the case in defense, security, aeronautics, for instance. We also have a working group that is dedicated to public authorities in the member state, notably to look at cloud public procurement practices. So we have representative of the member state that are IT buyers or specialists of cloud public procurement, and we're collecting their inputs through the Alliance to prepare this guidance that I mentioned on cloud public procurement. As I was speaking about security, an important initiative that I wanted to highlight at European level is the work that we have requested ENISA, the European Cybersecurity Agency, to undertake under the European Cybersecurity Act, and that is to develop a European cloud security certification scheme. So this certification mechanism will allow any any cloud service provider operating in Europe, to get certified once in any member state, and then get their certification recognized all across the European single market. So this will avoid fragmentation that exists today. There are different schemes in different member states, and cloud service providers have to get themselves certified in different countries, which is very costly. That certification scheme will supersede these different certification mechanism, and one European certification will be sufficient to address the need of all European member states. The scheme covers different level of reassurance, from basic to substantial to high, with of course increased technical controls as you get up the chain. We do expect to be able to publish that cloud security certification scheme before the end of 2022. Last slide, which is investment. Money, the Commission is really actually putting money to what we are committing through the different policies that I've described. We are really significantly investing in data processing capacities and data spaces across Europe through different mechanisms. We are using direct European funding through different European programs, Horizon Europe for research and innovation, so that we build the future competitiveness of European enterprises. And we're also using deployment programs such as Connecting Europe Facility 2. Let me highlight here that there is currently a call for proposal that is open until the end of April under the Connecting Europe Facility 2 program, and that allows public authorities or their supporting private actors to pay for the interconnection of different data center and cloud capacities for public authorities. So for instance, in the health sector, in the energy sector, in the transport sector, or general public administration, there is the possibility to use this program to pay for the physical interconnection of data centers and cloud capacities across different member states, of course. So please have a look at the call for proposal if you're interested. You will find in my presentation there are links that bring you directly to the call for proposal. Finally, Digital Europe program. This is to build up services, notably smart middleware technology that the Commission is committed to procure for the broad benefit of the entire community. So that middleware will be made publicly available as open source. And of course, we're counting on very close cooperation with both public and private actors to roll out that middleware in due course. The member state will co-invest with us, of course, via the Resilience and Recovery Facility budget that is made available at their disposal via the Next Generation EU program of the EU, and of course through national budget and programs where needed. Notably, the combination of the RF and national budget will be used to finance the important project of common European interest on next generation cloud. 12 member states have mobilized themselves to participate in this IPCI. That's the case of Luxembourg, notably. And we do expect that those 12 member states will pre-notify really shortly. We do expect actually that pre-notification to take place next week to pre-notify to the Commission the request for such an important project of common European interest. So we're very excited about this and looking forward to the pre-notification of those member states. And finally, it cannot work without co-investment by industry. We do need the private sector to co-invest with the public sector at European and national level. We're really in the same boat. This is a joint endeavor.
Sorry to jump in here, but we're running late with the program. I think our next speaker has a hard stop, so in the light of timing, can we cut a little bit short?
That's my last slide.
Oh, so. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So we do expect that this total investment is going to mobilize over 10 billion euros over the coming 5 years that will be fueled into these data processing capacities and the development of those common European data spaces at European level. So we very much count on continuous cooperation with the member state, with Gaia-X, to make all of this a success. It's really at the heart of the European digital and data strategy. Many thanks for listening, and sorry for having been
no
bit long.
Pierre, thanks a lot. I would like to make some references, but I'll do that at the end of the whole thing, because I know that Oliver is short on time. And with that, we'd like to do a little bit, we change the flight level and go a little bit deeper in the trenches of projects. And as next speaker, let me welcome Oliver Ganser from BMW, who will share a little bit on how projects are actually run. Oliver, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well. I tried to give you a quick run through what Catena-X is all about. Catena-X is, we call ourselves the first data-driven value chain for the automotive industry. My name, as it was said already, Oliver Ganser. I'm the head of an industry consortia, and I'm the chairman of the board for the Catena-X Association. So what is Catena-X? In our industry, it's always good to have a little push to move things forward. And I think we have a very good spot right now to make out of a crisis something good. So we learned a lot with COVID and with the semiconductor industry that peer-to-peer networks do not work any longer for our industry. So resilient processes are not in place right now to tackle with new challenges. On the other hand, there are new things coming up and challenges like sustainability, regulatory requirements that do require more than just a data peer-to-peer network, but that we actually require data chains to calculate a CO2 footprint, to pass along ESG standards and certificates along the value chain, to incorporate recycling partners in a circular economy and loop them in with others. So we need a completely new collaboration model along a data chain, along a process. And then the thing is, however, the Germans, the Europeans, sharing data, as my predecessors right now mentioned, sharing data is a matter of trust, and we do not want to share data because it is sometimes it's LP, sometimes it's not having the knowledge if it's worth or not. So we need an instrument, a framework to share data, and that for us is the Gaia-X, and we built Catena-X on the Gaia-X principles. And to build an ecosystem, a data chain and data ecosystem, we need an industry approach. And this is what Catena-X is all about. It's an industry approach where we would like to industrialize the Gaia idea and bring it into our industry and create our data space. So we want to be the first strong lighthouse. We see ourselves as the fitness program for our industry to build data chains from an end-tier supplier along the value chain to an OEM down to the recycling partner. For that, we need applications that are interoperable, that we cannot say that one application provider will dominate an entire chain. So we need standards that link the different vendors, an SAP, a Siemens, you name it, application, that they can calculate a CO2 footprint along the chain. Time to value, we believe this window what we have is a very rare opportunity. And if it closes, the market again is looking for standalone solutions. So we believe this window with the crisis we have to seize the opportunity. And that's why I say time to value. Within 2 to 4 months, we would like to offer solutions to help companies to jump on board an ecosystem, to get the data readiness and the least level into the cloud and join the network. And we really focus on the end user, not the IT department, not the app provider. We focus on the value we provide to the end user. So we build a system with Catena. Germans do systems. So what we have an association, which is part of taking care of the standardization, the certification, and the governance of the entire ecosystem. Then we will have a developer area where we right now have an industry consortia. We get to that in a second, which will build code and define potential standards and functional building blocks. The association will take them, if applicable, make them to a standard, and then we will have an operating environment to bring that code and that idea into the market and scale out. That will happen by the end of 2022. You will see an operating environment where Catena-X will be accessible to users outside of a development consortia, etc. The dotted bubbles mean that there's just one right now, but because it's an ecosystem, we build it in order to grow more. So we invite people and companies to join Catena once we have the foundation laid, to build applications for Catena to solve problems we will see and add to the value chain from a small, medium enterprise to large scale applications. So for the industry consortia, we are funded by the German Ministry of the Economic Affairs. And we said, once we build a data ecosystem, we have right from the beginning invite all parties that are part of an ecosystem, not just the consumers, not just the data providers, but software companies, existing networks, IoT partners, small and medium enterprises. And this is why we started the industry consortia with 28 companies, from a Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen, Schaeffler, to Big Chain DB, to German Edge Cloud, Siemens, SAP, the T-Systems. You can see the logos faster as I can read them. And everyone at the beginning has to be orchestrated in the system to have a balanced and fair ecosystem where everyone can be part of, from an OEM to recycling partner, from an IoT provider to a software company or the existing players. We will build within industry consortia. We lay the foundation with a Gaia-X and IDS compliant data space. On that, we will prove with 10 use cases. We will get to that in the next 3 years, the next 2.5 years from now on, that this ecosystem can grow, and we show and demonstrate what can be done and bring it into the large scale. And we have a transfer concept to make it not just for me, myself, and I, for those 28 partners, but that we invite partners to join within 2 to 4 months, as I just mentioned. What are the 10 processes and use cases we have? The the two core principles we need is, who am I and what is my business relationship? These are the two foundational building blocks, and I need that along the value chain. If I have that, I can build demand capacity management. I can link to that industry relation. We will then have in the system demand capacity management. We can link a CO2 footprint, an ESG certificate tracking. We can loop in the circular economy, life quality loops, whatever you want to mention. But with that, we just demonstrate the breadth and the depth of the ecosystem, and then we want to foster all the other ideas that can be out there, because it's just a stimulation for what's more. But for those, we would have to have a very strong penetration, and we will make sure that they're easy to access and can be adopted. How are we going to build it? I think many things have been said by parties in the beginning. So the green layer on the bottom here, you see that there's a Gaia-X foundation with IDS. Then we have shared services. We believe now as well, there's also a good outcome of our industry, that doing things once and sharing our power to have a shared service for the industry is more valuable than to build it 10 times for every party. So we have a shared foundation that then all the blue final business applications can refer to. What do I mean with that? For example, we have a shared data model, semantic for circular economy or CO2. And all business applications refer to that one data model. And this is our one truth. We have a same, if you say in that area, a same method of how to calculate. This is the one truth. These are the standards we're going to create. Also, the user interface, the guidance, the integration services. We want to build them with our scarce resources once, and then the innovation and the differentiation will happen on the business application side. That at the end, we really can, if you take the value chain from left to right, we can calculate from an end-tier supplier with a German Edge Cloud application to a Siemens application that with a tier 1, tier 2, tier 1 SAP, BMW, or SAP of an OEM. We can calculate this entire thing because we share the same foundation, we share the same standards at the bottom, and then we can bring it back together. That's pretty much building a data-driven value chain, and we do this on the product level for car, for gearbox, for tire, for door, whatever you want to call it, and then we can scale really and have a digital twin of our industry, of our core value chain processes. I will skip that in mostly, but we will strongly focus on, and many things have been said before, with digital twin registry, semantic hub, identity provider. These are the core network services, and we do not share data with a intermediary. So it's not a huge data pool. So that's why down here, if you have two examples, so VW and Bosch, for example, they have the metadata shared, they have the registry in their network. This will happen over the Eclipse data space connector within Catena. And the data is always shared between the companies. So they keep always full control over their data, what they shared and to whom they shared. And there's never a data lake where we put data in one part. And if you have then different applications like SAP or Siemens, they also have then an EDC connector where they hook in their Catena-X interface, so to speak, and there's a tenant for VW, and then they register, okay, this is the tenant for VW at SAP, this is a tenant for Bosch at Siemens, and then the data is shared between the EDCs, so to speak, between the connectors, and we never lose control because it stays within our control. What we are, so we have the industry consortium in the lower left, you saw those logos already. We focus very much on attracting small, medium enterprises and test them that it really works, not for the OEM on the first tier supplier. It really has to work if you want to build long data chains and penetrate. It has to work on the small, medium enterprise level, which are coming later on. And we started in Europe or in central Germany pretty much because the government funded a project, but with the Gaia hubs, we try to expand. And as you can see on the association where we invite additional members, you can see that logos from Volvo, from Ford, from Stellantis, from Valeo, from Denso, from Magna. So you see that we really gained lots of traction over the international side, and Atos and others to say, this is something, maybe it's a European idea with Gaia. It's a German industry that started, which has a global footprint, and we scale it out like this. This is pretty much where we would like to be seen. And as a key takeaway, Catena is not a platform. It is an open data ecosystem what we're going to develop. It will empower every single partner that is there with maximum sovereignty and trust in their data and their applications that they're going to provide. I'm sorry that I had to run through this now fairly quickly. I hope I did not lose you. At least some things hopefully will stick. And I wish you a great rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Oliver. I hope everything is good. He's done. Okay, so our next speaker is our independent board member and former chairman and our most senior member of Gaia-X. Welcoming to the floor, Hubert Tardieu. Thank you, Hubert. Thank you.
So I am extremely pleased to be here. Sasha, you said it. I was watching at you in my train, which was delayed, saying it's exactly 1 year ago that we have created this hub, and how much has taken place since we have created this hub. It's really impressive, and really I am very proud of what has been achieved. And we see here many of the contributors. Oliver Ganser was there, Andreas is there, Vasilia is there. So since I am coming after everyone, or just about after everyone, it's now not anymore an introduction, but a wrap-up. But I like that kind of challenge to change the meaning of the presentation while we are doing it. So let's start with what Pierre Chastanet said. I do not know whether Pierre is still around. So Pierre, this is the latest logo with the slide you presented with the old logo, which said, and I would like to give you the feeling that the Gaia-X and the European Commission are now fully aligned. And this is extremely important to be said. So Pierre has reminded us what is a cloud rule book, what are the various legislation, Data Act, DGA, DMA. All of that is something we are following very carefully, as well as we are following very carefully the European Common Data Spaces and the various other elements. Now, when it comes to Gaia-X, what is absolutely important, and Mario, you said it very rightly, we never separate the upper part of the X, which are the data spaces, from the lower part of the X, which is the infrastructure. Because if you separate the two, you are completely missing the point. And so we are in agreement on that between the European Commission and Gaia-X, but what is important is to say we need to continue to push for that kind of attitude. Now, obviously, we do have now an association which has been growing very rapidly. Piers Donoghue, who was with us Friday a week ago, was telling to the Hub France that there had never been such an association with such a dimension only after 2 years in the IT since European Commission exists, and I am extremely proud of that. I guess, Vasilia, we can say it is more than 324 companies, but it is 334 companies which are members of Gaia-X. 3 out of 4 of these organizations are private, about half of them are SMEs. And we have organizations as users from many different domains. I'll come back onto that. Now, very important, and it was already by design in Gaia-X when we have the launching of the Luxembourg Data Hub last year, but the resilience and recovery facility has made this question of how hubs are organized and how they are articulated with Gaia-X absolutely crucial. At this point of time, we have 14 hubs in EU, and we were very happy to inaugurate the Austrian one yesterday. I have to, by the way, give the apologies of Francesco, our CEO, because he's today doing everything possible to make a new big hub to be created. So 14 EU hubs plus 1 in Korea, and we will add Japan soon. Now, in order for that international cooperation to be as efficient as possible, we have created the Gaia-X Board of Government Representative. Mario is one of the members for Luxembourg. But you see, this group of GAB, as we call it, is meeting 3 times a year. And we do have our second meeting next week in Paris on the 7th of April. And we will discuss many of the aspects which are relevant for Gaia-X, and we will listen to the recommendation of governments from all these hubs. I would like also to mention that the funding challenges, which have been a little bit of a question at the beginning, without any privilege for Gaia-X, it is a case that for each of the various data spaces, we have managed to answer in a very normal way the call for tender for the European Commission, and so far so good. We are properly funded in each of the data space we need to do. In the same way, Andreas, you said, and we are very happy about that, that now Germany is putting 15 million euro in JXFS, but after some efforts, I would say, France is aligning, has put as well 15 million euro. We expect Italy, we expect Spain to join that effort. And you see here the various data space in which we are working. I would say the most advanced at this point, and it's important, Mario, say about what you said, health is among the most advanced. I understand that Luxembourg wants to be involved. So next week on the 4th, there will be a meeting, a full-day meeting with a representative of the various health contributors, and there will be a specific 2-hour session only with the government and the European Commission to discuss the various elements of it. Financial, smart communities and smart cities, tourism, agriculture, manufacturing, and it is not here mentioned, but space is also an important data space where I know you are involved. So I do not want to spend a lot of time regarding what is Gaia-X, because you know that very well, and it has been the discussion since we have started. What I would like is to tell us where we are. So, as it was mentioned by Andreas, specification, I would say, is over for most of it. We are now getting into the development, and soon will come the time for qualification, okay? I guess it's important to say that it has been explained by Francesco, our CEO, last year. 2021 was the time for setup. I would say the setup is now there. The team is almost complete, and the team has now the full capability to deliver what we want. And as we have seen a few minutes ago with Oliver, 2022 is a year of adoption. And when we think about adoption, it has 2 elements into it. Typically, Gaia-X is very much demanded by the automotive industry in Europe, but Gaia-X has its own schedule, and Gaia-X had his knife in the back of Andreas to say, Andreas, you better deliver quickly, otherwise we will find someone else. And that has a lot of virtue because it stops all kind of speculative discussion whether we should do that or that. We know now what we have to do. During 2022, the main lighthouse project on which I will come have been defined, and it's important that I share that with you. In 2023, we expect that the move from an AISBL push, which is still what we see now, into a market pool will start in such a way that really in 2024 and 2025 we go to scale. We have all ingredients to think it will go that way, okay? So in terms of adopting Gaia-X 2022. This is the way we see it. There will be the beta version of the minimum viable product. We will see probably Catena-X using IDSA-based connectors, for instance, which are absolutely in line, I hope, Andreas, with what you are preparing for Gaia-X. In other words, they have simply a previous version of what will be available later on. And all that is right now orchestrated around the Gaia-X lab and the development of the various services. Now, what is important is to say we are not inactive regarding regulation. We have started to work very strongly about label. Label has been put in terms of investigation and review, and we had this morning the result of that. More than 700 contributions have been given by many partners of Gaia-X, meaning that we are now going to the second round of the label. They are following the same scheme as the one presented by Pierre, meaning basic, high, and I don't remember what is the last name, but pretty high, I would say. They are concentrating primarily on security. Obviously, we will go much more wider, and it will not be only technical label, it will be label which will be instantiated for health, instantiated for energy, instantiated for all the domains we are covering. So this is a quick description of the Gaia-X group structure, not to tell you the detail, but to tell you after a little bit of what I would call innovative mess, okay? We are now into a situation where everyone knows exactly what he has to do, and we have now the data space business committee, the policy rule committee, the technical committee, and all these things accompanied by the Gaia-X lab and external framework projects as GXFS-DE and GXFS France are working well together. So you have in the presentation, which I'm sure Sasha will be distributed over people, all the name of who you have to connect if you want to be aware of that. Now, let me take a few minutes about the two consortiums. The GXS FR consortium is really among the founders of Gaia-X, OVH Cloud, Atos, Gaia-X, DocaPost, and they are working on certain lots directly linked to what you have presented, Andreas. It is not a 12 million euro budget, but a 15 million euro budget. And in the same way, you have the same scheme for the German part. And as you see, the various packages have been organized under the authority of Pierre and with Andreas working close to Anne-Sophie Taillandier in France to make it happen. Let me take 2 minutes before I finish, because I know we are late, on what are the key, what we call lighthouse project in Gaia-X. The first one, you have heard of it by Oliver, is Catena-X. It is the most advanced one in terms of size, but not in terms of maturity. The most advanced one in terms of maturity is Ag Data Hub, which is covering the need of farmers. The farmers are absolutely terrified by the fact that their data are absorbed by the John Deere and Bayer of this world, and they cannot continue like that. So they have get organized in such a way that we have now a project which is underway for almost 1 year, and which will be from a French project extended to a European project with some kind of Italy element of it. Mobility data space has been created in Germany. It works pretty well, and it will have also some deliverable and services this year. Let me mention as well UPro Gigant, which is a Germano-Austrian project for Industry 4.0, which will be likely reinforced by a significant effort done in Germany to follow Industry 4.0, a decision which has been taken recently. And finally, Structura X is what is done by the service provider to make the follow-up of what is prepared in terms of prototype by Gaia-X, and this is regrouping most of the cloud service provider which exist. We have been announced last week, Friday, EONA X, which is the one in the transportation and travel, which is very good, and we expect that many of us will come, and we expect, Mario, that the Space Consortium will now create, I would say SpaceX is already taken, but you have to invent another name how you want to get organized. Okay, so let me say and finish by what was said by Sasha and Mario. Why should you join, contribute, shape, develop and strengthen? As opposed to last year where it was still risky to join, this year I have to tell you, you better join if you want to be part of the game. Thank you.
So thank you, Hubert, for this really nice update on what's happening at the IESBL side, also on sharing the planning and especially for making it over here. I think what you're currently doing is a tour de force because I know that you're already tight on the way over and you're also tight on the way back. See you on the 4th of April online virtually for our next thing. So, before we do a deep dive into another project of Gaia-X, I hope this won't be counting as an X-rated show here. There's one thing, so Vasilia, this one's for you. If you got a good idea and it's a contribution, I want you to go ahead and do it. It's much easier to apologize than it is to ask for permission. And now your turn to guess who this quote is by. I guess you guessed it. Yes, Grace Hopper, you're right on. You're not on loudspeaker, but I'll tell you who it is. It's by Grace Hopper. So
Again?
Again, yeah.
All right.
So now into another, let's say, testimonial. Let me welcome Oliver Ganser. No, it's not Oliver. Where's Jochen?
Jochen.
Wrong page. Yeah, well. Where's Jochen? For sharing what we do on the fintech stuff. Ah, there he is. Perfect. Hiding back there. First time we meet in person.
Yeah, that's right.
Welcome. Stage is yours. And thank you for being shown the flexibility of switching around. Much appreciated.
No problem. So thanks a lot, Ralph and the host for having me. My name is Jochen Papenbrock. I work at NVIDIA. I'm the head of financial technology in EMEA. And today I would like to take you on a journey a little bit on the AI part, maybe that could be added or worked on in Gaia-X. So. Oh, I think that's not the right deck, actually. No, it's the wrong file somehow. Okay, let's see what's on the deck, and I will just have a short look. That's okay. I think I can do it. Yeah. So actually, I wanted to talk about the the financial AI cluster, which is a project that we established 2020 in the finance and insurance data space, and this project is about creating trustworthy, explainable AI. Because we have another big act coming up, which is the EU AI Act and the following AI regulation. So we need to prepare for this. And so the idea is to use the data that we have in Gaia-X, and on top of this, use obviously the superpowers of AI. And how to build a trustworthy AI marketplace, an ecosystem, that's the question. Basically the trick here is to look at the at the computational powers that we have, at the algorithms that allow us to basically create a trustworthy AI. So what does it mean? An explainable AI, for example, can be created by taking a black box AI algorithm and then using some computational power and algorithms to make this algorithm explainable. So you really understand what's inside this algorithm. What is the decision that this algorithm takes? And that's really important, especially in financial services, because the credit scoring, for example, is one of the examples in the draft of the AI Act. It's one of these models that require trustworthiness. So the model has to be without bias, unwanted bias. The model has to be very stable. It has to be explainable and transparent. So in Financial AI Cluster, we work on making AI models explainable and transparent. And we use accelerated computing for this. This is one of the key technologies here. So as you might know, NVIDIA is one of the leaders in this field. Accelerated computing is a mixture of hardware and software pieces. So we have a lot of SDKs around that we use in this project, actually. A lot of open source code, and Python is obviously the data science language number one. And this computing platform acceleration can be used in any cloud, can also be used in data centers, in private and local data centers. So the power of supercomputing and AI can be brought to the companies, can be brought to organizations. So the trick is basically you have code that can be used on the CPU, everybody has it in their notebooks. And the GPU basically takes that part of code which is highly parallel. And for example, making an AI model explainable is a very parallelizable task, because you basically do inferencing on the model. So you have data and you remove some features, you add some features. It's like a simulation. And with this repetitive task, you extract the decision making of any AI algorithm from this black box. So this is one way to do it, just to give you an example how this works. And with the power of supercomputer, you can basically test the robustness of a model, make it explainable. So we have seen with GPU acceleration that, for example, in research, for example, in COVID-19, there's a supercomputer in the UK called Cambridge One, and that's used for these things. We have already seen the other supercomputer here in Luxembourg, Meluxina. So that's another example of the superpowers you have when you accelerate things. And one other aspect of our financial AI cluster is also sustainability. So how can we use computers and AI to have a more sustainable finance approach? Sustainable finance means looking at the ESG scores, so the environmental, social and governance scores that companies have. So this can be done with a lot of data, obviously, because out there is a lot of data in form of text, company reports. So when you use an AI to read all this data about a company, you have a very good, very powerful tool to monitor these companies and to see if they obey to the rules of the standards in ESG. Also, you can look at another data source, which is geospatial AI. So you can look at sensor data, at satellite data, to understand entire supply chains, to understand if companies really follow the rules. For example, a company that has a certain manufacturing facility and it has a good governance on the paper, but then there's a wildfire because this fabric or manufacturing is very hot and there's an emission of heat, so there's a wildfire. So this is something that you can observe from the sky, actually. So we also in Financial AI Cluster project look at sustainable finance projects. We do them, we look for data. And when you use AI for this, like geospatial AI or natural language processing, you also want to make these models trustworthy, explainable. Yeah, so this is what we combine, the sustainability aspect and the trustworthy aspect here. And what you see here is, as this picture, it's basically a digital twin of the Earth that we are currently building. This project is not finished, it's not yet related obviously to Financial AI Cluster and Gaia-X, but just to show you what computers can help us here, it's for forecasting climate change, right? So climate intelligence is an important aspect here. So basically, I talked about it, we need a modernization of the ESG. That means at the moment we have a lot of different reports. Company can choose themselves how they report about their ESG footprints. So in the future, we will take this textual data and take the geospatial data to better analyze it, to have a more, let's say, AI-powered, data-driven, evidence-based approach to ESG. And obviously, this is one of the sub-projects that we follow in the financial AI cluster. Basically, I showed you this one, and we are currently working on a global AI summit to bring together the ecosystem around sustainable finance to make it more efficient. And this ecosystem is really rich. So we have already done a smaller summit so far. Now it's going to be a bigger one, and we also include the members of our Gaia-X financial AI cluster to participate in this one. We collect data. We want to establish the methodologies. And the participants is quite a range, quite heterogeneous, from startups to research organizations to investment companies. Also, we have a link established to central banks who are very concerned about sustainable finance and technology, because they have a huge issue at the moment. The data collection process is very difficult. There are huge gaps also in the data. And that's another aspect where we can include and inject AI. Because having gaps in data, you can use synthetic data at this point to a certain extent. There are limitations, obviously, but whenever we have these data gaps about climate science data or whatsoever, you can use GANs or other technologies to generate data synthetically using AI. So this could be one trick, let's say, to overcome the limits that we currently observe. So this is more the theoretical part. We have heard about the explainability that you can create using computers. You have heard about the sustainable finance aspect that you can support with the supercomputing powers. Now we go also to implementation. So we have created here a stack together with Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, who are one of our consortium partners. And in this stack, you can basically see the entire combination of a platform that you need. It's orchestrated, there are Docker containers, it's a Kubernetes environment, so it has the latest standards. And it's the HPE solution framework for Gaia-X. So that means whenever we include our new use cases here around explainable AI, trustworthy AI, sustainable finance using AI, we can use this framework and deploy these solutions. We have also thought about how can we use mechanisms to create trust domains. Trust domains to establish services around AI explainability and AI certification, because that's another big ecosystem that's currently emerging in Europe, but also the US at the moment. It is an ecosystem of companies that are able to certify AI. They look at the robustness, at the explainability and the anti-bias or the bias that prevails in a model. And they use technology for this. They want to automate this. So it's a marketplace that emerges at the moment, like a third-party AI certification marketplace. So with this stack, it's possible to bring the computing power to the data and to the models. That's really important, because so far we talk a lot about data sharing, but also we need to have shared compute resources. That's the other part of the coin, let's say. Another alternative stack we are currently using here is built with VMware. So on the upper right side, you see basically the accelerated computing for AI in the enterprise. So it can be used in any data center. It doesn't need to be in the cloud. It is in the cloud, yes, but you can also use it outside in your data center or co-location space. And this is connected to the virtualization and containerization platform of VMware. And VMware is actually, it ticks all the boxes of sovereign principles. So this is a potential reference architecture here that we propose, which is compliant to the European initiatives such as Gaia-X and the sovereign cloud. And injected in this, let's say, platform is the AI. And with this AI and high-performance computing, we're able to implement trustworthy AI, explainable AI, using AI for sustainable finance. So actually, this is like a reference architecture for a marketplace, basically. So startups can use this because it can also be small sized. You don't need a supercomputer here. It can also be a few GPUs, basically. So we already have built this, the stack that I showed to you in Germany. So we work with the VDE, for example. They have built the so-called AI testing and quality hub in Frankfurt, together with a local digital ministry and together with the TÜV. So that's technical certification companies that already use these kind of, or want to use these kind of tools. But we have also a French project emerging. It's quite fresh. So here we have a startup being the leader, DreamQuark, and they are actually building such a federated, trustworthy AI hub for financial services. So this is what I wanted to share with you. Sorry for the mess with the slides. Don't know what happened, but hope you enjoyed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Johan, very much. We also had a couple of changes, so we love the flexibility. On our next step, I guess we are moving with the screen, giving 1 minute break so that we can move a little bit this thing here, and we will continue with our panel discussion. Amazing ladies with us, Sasa Bailey from Lux Innovation, Antoinetta Mastroianni from Proximus, and our vice chair from Gaia-X, Karl Brukland from the Ministry of the Economy, and Celine Tarub from Fedil, with me trying to catch up your breath in any way we can. Okay, maybe we need to drink some water because this will be quite intensive. We have 30 minutes, so I think the countdown has already started. So thank you very much to our attendees and our physical attendees and online attendees. We maxed more than 400 attendees, both physically and online, on an online basis. I would like to take this opportunity before going to our panel discussion to discuss on a couple of events that we are having this year and throughout the year on data spaces. We are having our next health data space series on the 4th of April. It's going to be related on the health data space ecosystem. On the 19th of May, we will have our mobility data space event. On the 9th of June, the tourism data space event. On the 7th of September, we have the agriculture series. By the 17th of October, we have the manufacturing data space series. Please check our site, Gaia-X.eu. That was marketing purposes. I have to promote still, thank you. So moving with our panel discussion. On my left-hand side, I have Sasha and Celine, and on my right-hand side, I have wonderful Antoinetta and wonderful Carol. Thank you very much. So what are our impressions of today's event? So that we can start off a little bit in a more relaxed way. Innovation. What can we say about innovation, Sasha?
Well, I think this is working. I think we've seen it all come together. We've been looking into the future, and we've also been seeing how it's already been starting to become very concrete. We have projects up and running, and it's extremely encouraging to see it starting to fit together. And that's what innovation is all about. It's anticipating the future and starting on working on projects now that are going to get us ready economically, but also as a society. So that I found extremely encouraging to see.
Lux Innovation takes a dual role. It creates innovation, it sustains innovation, and it brings also companies to create more innovation. How do you feel that the two entities between Gaia-X and Lux Innovation can create an added value, a business impact, as we would say?
Well, I mean, our role is really in Luxembourg to raise awareness to innovation, to encourage companies to go down the path of innovation, and to draw their attention to the opportunities of the future. Companies are often dealing with their own operational daily businesses, and there's lots of changes coming around. And so our job is really to facilitate this access to the potential of innovation. And we do this by giving them means of access to funding, to competences, expertise, knowledge. So we're a bridge in all that. And this is also where we saw Gaia-X emerging on the horizon. And it still seemed a very complex concept, a lot of different ways of seeing it, what it is. And we just grasped that it was extremely important to bring it into Luxembourg and to assess best what is in it for our own ecosystem, what is in it for our companies, what is in it for our research institutions, and make it accessible. And since we as Lux Innovation, we are a facilitator in innovation, a bridge, it was naturally our role to take up this job, this mission inside the Luxembourg ecosystem as a Gaia-X regional hub for Luxembourg.
Which takes me to the next point, Antoinette. You hold a dual role. You're equally the vice chair of Gaia-X for some time, but you also hold a very important role at Proximus. And you're currently expanding our digital ecosystem to equally expand our reach to different industries. What does this, in fact, mean from a societal impact on one hand side and a business impact on the other hand side?
Yes, indeed, this is very interesting because from a telecom perspective, we see a shift from a pure connectivity into ecosystem, into digital service provider. So we go much beyond the telco with creation of super app and ecosystem that goes into supporting the public health, into supporting and expanding the financial sector. And there, of course, Gaia-X plays an important role because this is only possible if we have the right data infrastructure, if we have the right data space in an environment which is trustworthy, which is interoperable, where all the SME can contribute. And this is extremely important also in the light of creating opportunity, as we have seen today also in the presentation, for the different SME that can contribute into this digital ecosystem, accessing data, but also accessing services and joining and services in order to be part of something which is much bigger than their business. And it's not only for telco, it's not only for creating business opportunity, but also for doing good for the society. For example, one use case that we have built in cooperation with Gaia-X and Proximus, it's also leveraging the geoinformation. We have seen in Belgium last year the flooding, which has been very, very painful for the society. And just basically using the data in the right way, not only we can predict this kind of catastrophe, but also we can make sure that when these things happen, the data is available and can help also to steer all the operation in the right direction.
Could we actually say that this is a use case and it can in fact show how the Gaia-X standard can be used?
Yes, indeed, we are using this as use case, but also as a prototype in order also to expand much further than that. And this is extremely important because it shows one potential, but the potential are infinite. If we have the right partner on board, the right consortia, if we are competitive, of course, supported by the right infrastructure, the right data space built in federal and interoperable way.
Antoinette, you always talk equally how to engage and better improve the access of SMEs to further resources, to skills, to be part of driving the digital economy. Please elaborate a little bit on this.
Yes, also as part of Gaia-X, this is a very, very interesting aspect in our funding concept, but also in what we are trying to build, in the sense that if we think a bit about the small SME, in the past they were not competitive, but if you basically create the opportunity to create consortia where different kind of SME can get together, can share data, can share potential, they get much more competitive also to participate to the big opportunities which are available in Europe, but also to scale up business opportunities. And this is something that we have initiated, but that of course will be facilitated with all the projects and all the activity that are going on in Gaia-X as well.
Thank you very much. Céline, you also speak about the importance of better integrating SMEs in the driving of digital economy, but you always say that they don't have the necessary resources, they do not have the money, they do not have the skills, and this is sometimes preventative in being part of driving and even being part of the digital economy. What would you say are the worst challenges right now, but equally the opportunities that we can see?
I mean, you already mentioned them. It's the question of money, the question of resources, and the question of skills. But one of the most challenging is as well the question of the time constraints. When you are a small company of, I mean, for instance, 50 people, you don't have the time to look up for a new business opportunity. You don't have the time to look for new business, for new digital solutions, for instance. So you will need some support to do so. So you will have to set up a global digital strategy for the company. So this is one of the main challenges for the SME so far.
Sure, but at the same time, do you think that since they are lacking in many cases the resources, the money, their time constraints as well, are they ready to use digital solutions in the first place?
I would say that some are not, and we are currently running a maturity survey with the Digital Innovation Hub, and I'm really looking forward to have the results. And we will see that we will have some different level of maturity of the company with regard to the digitalization. So on this basis, we will be able to assess where we stand in Luxembourg in terms of digitalization with the companies.
Do you think that Gaia-X can play a role in improving the access to data to SMEs, and if yes, how?
Yes, of course. Gaia-X will play a role because when we talk about making use of digital solution, what we hear from our members, it's the lack of trust in digital solution. Because sharing that data, actually the data is their asset, it's their IP. So they need to partner up with a trustworthy partner. But so far, data is not really stored in Europe, and it's in the hands of non-European actors. So Gaia-X will be a true alternative for such to find the right partners for that.
Thank you. And bringing again the transition to you, Carol. You always speak about how Gaia-X can fit in the economic development and how certain priorities can shift in a certain way, both in Luxembourg, but equally to other European countries. So we actually see that access to data when it comes to the healthcare industry and the health domain overall is quite fragmented as it's currently approached. And post-pandemic, we've seen that even more due to the infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of data, the access to data, and so on and so on. How do you see Gaia-X can support towards improving the current situation in health, in the health domain?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question, and I think you've captured the issue very nicely. The healthcare space is highly fragmented for many reasons, right? It's the national boundaries, it's the setting of care boundaries, it's a question of who owns the data, who practically controls the data, and understanding it legally is not the same as being implemented practically. So to me, having followed over the last year, both with my economic development hat, but also as a board member of the LIH, this Gaia-X initiatives provides a guiding light towards the sector of how it could be done, what are the critical elements to align oneself on, and importantly, following on the philosophy that we talked about of using use cases to make it practical, works, at least from the Luxembourgish originated project, works transnationally to not make it just work in one country, but align directly multiple regions and multiple ways of working according and therefore finding shared standards and ways of working.
How could we improve the greater community good? We actually explained a couple of things with Antoinette as well, but from a healthcare perspective, is it building or moving towards a health data space ecosystem? And if this is the case, what would be the challenges and the opportunities in this direction? And how can Gaia-X support in this way?
I think what complicates health, and it's one of also a lever of opportunity, is the fact that there's far more stakeholders than in most other industry sectors. So we cannot talk about, of course, the companies, the public sector researchers, but in the end, it's the individuals, society at large, that needs to be engaged in the process. So if you speak to the average Luxembourg or European citizen today and talk about health data as a means of innovating, they will probably shy away at best and pull faces at you at worst, worrying about you selling their data or using it for nefarious purposes. But the narrative around explaining to the average citizen why innovation of health data benefits them themselves in the future it's not easily done at the moment, and to me, we have work to do there, because Gaia-X is in this audience. It's not abstract anymore in this audience, but it is out there in society at large. And until we found the words and the means of communicating it, it is a hurdle to overcome. And I hope Gaia-X is one of the levers where we will get closer to society at large.
Carol, can we safely say that we can create a virtual cycle, holistic integration in health, in the health system? Is that even possible from a digital perspective?
I think it's the best chance I've seen yet to do so. I think what the Gaia-X way of working hopefully will offer us is a means of reconciling the European values that we strive for with the legal reality and with the practical guidelines of knowing how to do it in a day-to-day basis as a company and as a researcher.
And now bringing also this panel to a close before our networking question, I would like to define, or let's say characterize, or bring a couple of keywords like we would play a puzzle. If we would think of a couple of keywords of what Gaia-X actually brings, what would that be? I say trust. What do you say?
Control your data, own your data, do something with your data.
Antoinette?
Big opportunities.
Big opportunities. Carol?
As always, I say collaboration.
Collaboration. Celine?
Yeah, I think transparency and openness as well are important.
Okay, from our physical attendees today, any questions? Any keywords? What could be possibly positioned? I say transparency. I say openness. Is this something we deserve? Do we need this? Come on, I want to see hands. This is an open panel. No, nothing?
I think we can add European competitivity.
Competitivity. Why? Why do you think? Yes.
Because we will open the market in creating a really European data market on the global scale.
Why is this needed?
Competitivity.
Why do we think it's a major challenge these days?
Because we need to stay in the race of the data economy on the global scale. So this is really needed for our European companies, but in the first place for the Luxembourgish companies as well.
How can this improve innovation if we bring all that?
Well, it's all about that we're being held back from innovation because we don't have trust. We are fearful. We are reticent. And being able to trust this data space around them and being able to do things there is what's going to create innovation. It's going to stimulate us, and that's going to be move us all forward and in a very strong European manner.
So can we safely say that we are rather constrained in the way that we have operating things up to this point, Antoinetta?
Definitely yes, because it has been so fragmented that has removed the competitiveness, and this is where also we have to join forces and convince all the SME to cooperate together in a trusted environment to create opportunity, but also to access the big opportunity, the big economical opportunity that are out there, which we are not accessing at the moment.
If we were to say that we had a priority in one sector right now that requires our focus, which would that be? Would it be health? Would it be manufacturing? Would it be mobility? Would it be education? Would it be manufacturing? Tourism? All of them together? Where do we start? Because we have to start from somewhere, no?
Personally, I think it's health. I think that's where we're being mostly held back, but Carol knows there's much more. And I think that's where we can also show the most added value for each and every individual human being, because that's where the solutions will lie in the future.
Yeah, if I can build on Sasha's remarks there, I think health is one of the more complex ones. I'm pleasantly surprised how quickly has it advanced despite that, and also maybe because of that, because the complexity of Gaia-X is not that much more than the day-to-day national complexity, which might be a scary thought in and of itself. I think what is attractive about the health use case, the direct return to the individual stakeholder, the citizen themselves, is in reach. I think that's maybe more difficult in some more industrial use cases. So I'm very hopeful that we can reach that target.
If I was a company, I have a company, and I'm interested to be involved in Gaia-X, what would you advise that company to do? Which parties, which companies would you even see being involved in Gaia-X?
Come and speak to us.
Yeah, I know. Come and speak to the Lux Innovation Hub. Yes, sure.
Well, I think, first of all, being part of Gaia-X open big opportunities, but also it's starting to get involved and to get access to all the funding, to the tenders that are out there. Try to also to understand which other company in Europe you can partner with to extend your business, because at the moment it's unknown. A small company, they don't know with whom they can partner. Perhaps there is a fantastic partner, it's just sit in another country in Europe and they simply don't know. So get access to the information and to the opportunity, which we are also making available in a nice and easy way, and then build from there.
Right now, Gaia-X is really growing. It's still a startup, but it's still growing immensely. And we have members from across Europe and beyond joining us. In fact, we've hit a mark of 334 members, and we're growing every month. And all these members, we see big companies, small companies, medium-sized companies, startups, associations, research centers. What do we see in common to all these different stakeholders?
Yes, indeed, this is super interesting to see all the different type of companies. I think the common part it's really looking at the future and having the dream to build something which is new and innovative. What has been also interesting to see is that many small companies that are in the same business sector, how they can cooperate, they can get together, and it's not only that. We have seen also the consortia which has been created, presented also today with Catena-X and Struttura-X, how they can build ecosystem where everybody can be part of it and can benefit, but can bring benefit. So I would say this is really a unique opportunity.
What do we say to the critics of Gaia-X?
Well, the critics always come when there is something which is innovative, which is disrupting the market, which Gaia-X is, which is creating opportunity in a completely different way, because we have not seen before small and medium company all over Europe getting together and competing with the much bigger companies. Can be scary for some, eh?
I can jump in on that, on what to say to the critics. The critics are always the ones who show the problems, but very rarely do they come up with the solutions. And we might not have the complete solutions, but it's only through this interaction that we're going to find the solutions. So that would be my message to the critics.
Yeah, for sure. This is always what Francesco tells me. Yeah, the CEO, Vasilia, be solutions-oriented. Bring solutions. What solutions can we bring with Gaia-X? Where, if we were to enumerate the main challenges that we're currently having, that is a deadlock, and it brings us back, which would that be? Top 3?
For me, it would be complexity.
Yeah.
There's all these different elements of the system, and bringing that together, and everybody is an expert in their area, and bringing everybody together for the same purpose, I think is a big challenge.
When we talk about trust, what do we actually mean?
Well, I think it's full trust in technology, which is used for good and ethical purpose, where I think it's very important to show the good for the society, the good for the citizen, and that's the only way to build trust.
Any further comments? No?
Time for a drink?
Are we going for a drink? Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our attendees, physical, online. It was a pleasure to be here with you, with the Lux Innovation Hub, all our supporters and our enemies. We like our frenemies. It makes us to improve all the day, all the time. Thank you as well, Ralph, that I can bring to the floor, I guess. Yes? All right. Thank you very much. Our ladies here, Sasha, Celine, Antoinetta, Carol, come back.
Thank you, Vasilia. Thank you, Ralph.
We have this game with Ralph.
Some famous words?
We have to tell the game. We need to discuss who is the pinky and who is the brain. I always say that I am the pinky and you're the brain.
Well, I don't know. I'd rather like that dog and pony show.
No.
No.
I always try to bring this show back to us. So please.
Let me tease you with another quote.
Not another quote.
No. That's the last one. Promise. No. So, first of all, thank you for the great panel. I think, everybody who has been into psychology a little bit knows about that peak-end experience, and that the last thing is actually the thing you'll probably take away. So I think it was really a good idea to take the grand finale with the panel over here. However, I would like to summarize a little bit, just a few words on the rest of the thing, because...
Not quoting, please.
No quoting there. I think what we have achieved overall, and even though we kind of rescheduled a little bit, I think we have managed to achieve taking a look at Gaia-X from all different angles. We have seen it from the IESBL's level, where we see, this thing is actually progressing. Last year was setting up shop. This year we'll see the project springing to life, and we see the progress over the next year. We have seen the testimonials, which are really filled with life. We have seen that also it's taken serious, not only from a national perspective, but also from an EU perspective. So there's some serious commitment in terms of policies. There is some serious commitment in terms of budgets. And I think it's also the last 4 views we had over here from an innovation view, from an ICT provider, also again, governmental view, and from FEDIR's view, that shows how serious the whole topic is. And as we just said, you know, or as you just said in the panel over there to all the critics over there, well, you know, be my guest, do it better or shut up.
I always say the same. I always say the same, but surely we can improve, right? Because if I seek criticism, I say I need to self-criticize myself first. And then, you know, when I take it from a, you know, an open perspective, let's say transparent perspective, I would equally say bring it on. Why? Because this makes us to improve, right? If Gaia-X is able to show results in less than a year, because this year is the adoption year, I guess we will show more results in the third year. And guess what? There are already projects right now, Catena-X, Giga, many projects that lighthouses, the GXFS project as well, that are trying to bring business impact and user cases, enabler cases, and move forward in a sort of direction. I guess if we don't have these critics, maybe we could not necessarily push forward, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So for the panel, thanks a lot for the panel, and also a special thanks to Vasilia, you know, because a panel is not only about having the right answers, but it's also about asking the right questions, and I'm glad that you did that.
And you have to improvise all the time, because the good question is never a good question. We know you don't know. You never know when the question is right or the answer is right, but the ladies really helped in the process, which I appreciate. And I'm really grateful that I had the chance to meet them all and have the chance to work with them for the past month or even more. And I think this is an opportunity also to mention about how important the national policies are and how important the hubs are in the success of Gaia-X, because the Gaia-X Gaia-X standard and framework is an ecosystem. It's not just the management team, the board of directors, Vasilia, Francesco, Dominic, and all of us that, you know, sit on the background and are running around all day, crazy, trying to make things happen. It's also about the hubs that we have. It's about the members we have. It's about the ecosystem, the different stakeholders, the people that we never see, like, for instance, our technical experts, Natalie, our event organizers across all hubs, which we're always thankful, and we never really see their faces. So it's all about faces, right? An ecosystem is all about faces. It's about hearts. It's about minds and how we can move, in fact, hearts and minds, right? Who said that quote?
That one I don't know, but you know, to finish off, I have a last quote for you, because like I said, I'm glad that you did actually the moderation of the panel.
Nah.
Because, well, yeah, sometimes I get a little too creative. Quote by... No, you don't know.
By this time, you know that I can't remember any codes. I am a numbers person.
Well, in this case, it was not Grace Hopper. It was Bruce Dickinson, the lead singer of Iron Maiden.
Okay. Ooh, I like that. So I guess the next hub event from Luxembourg will have a background in rock and roll.
I hope so.
Possibly.
See you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.